right hand, middle path, left hand, and the Purgatorian way. A. General overview. In occult and esoteric language, the right-hand path, middle path, and left-hand path describe different spiritual orientations toward divinity, selfhood, morality, power, liberation, and transformation. These terms are used differently across traditions, so they should not be treated as rigid boxes. They are symbolic categories. The right-hand path usually emphasizes alignment with divine order, purification, devotion, ethical discipline, humility, surrender, service, and harmony with God, Source, Dharma, Logos, or sacred law. The left-hand path usually emphasizes individual sovereignty, personal will, taboo breaking, self-mastery, antinomian transformation, and liberation from imposed religious or social systems. The middle path seeks integration, not blind obedience, not egoic rebellion, not self-erasure, not self-worship, but wholeness through balance, discernment, and truth. None of these paths is automatically good or evil. Each has noble and distorted forms. The right can become authoritarian or self-denying. The left can become narcissistic or predatory. The middle can become vague, passive, or evasive if it refuses necessary judgment. But at their best, all three represent real approaches to spiritual transformation. B. The right-hand path. The right-hand path is the path of sacred alignment. It teaches that the individual ego is not the highest authority. The soul must be purified, disciplined, humbled, and brought into right relationship with a higher order. This may be understood as God, the divine, cosmic law, truth, virtue, dharma, angelic hierarchy, or enlightened being. Its practices often include prayer, devotion, ritual purity, service, restraint, moral discipline, surrender, contemplation, and ascent toward union with the divine. Many forms of mystical Christianity, ceremonial theurgy, devotional tantra, Sufism, bhakti, angelic magic, Kabbalah, and Orthodox mysticism can be understood through this lens. At its best, the right-hand path gives the seeker structure, reverence, ethical grounding, humility, and protection from ego inflation. Its danger is that it can confuse obedience with holiness. It can shame the body, desire, anger, individuality, or shadow. It can turn living truth into rigid dogma, or demand surrender before the soul has become whole. The central question of the right-hand path is, how do I bring myself into harmony with the highest? C. The middle path. The middle path is the path of integration, balance, natural wisdom, and reconciliation of opposites. It should not be confused with every tradition that calls itself middle. Buddhism famously uses the term middle way, but in broader occult taxonomy, Buddhism often functions more like an extreme renunciatory right-hand path. Its emphasis on detachment, ego rejection, extinguishing craving, release from embodied becoming, and liberation from the cycle of rebirth can move toward self-denial rather than true integration. It is middle within its own internal framework, but not necessarily middle in the wider esoteric sense. A better example of the esoteric middle is Taoism, especially in its traditional forms. Taoism does not usually seek domination over nature, nor flight from nature. It seeks harmony with the Tao, the way beneath and within all things. It honors polarity through yin and yang, dark and light, receptive and active, feminine and masculine, stillness and motion, yielding and strength. These are not enemies to be destroyed, but complementary forces to be understood and harmonized. The Taoist sage does not conquer the world by force, nor flee the world through hatred of embodiment. He learns the pattern of things. He acts without forcing.
He becomes simple without becoming empty, disciplined without becoming rigid, detached without becoming cold, alive without being enslaved by appetite. In broader esoteric language, the middle path holds together spirit and body, discipline and freedom, solitude and fellowship, truth and love, mercy and severity, shadow and light, desire and restraint, surrender and sovereignty, life and death. Its purpose is not to erase the self, nor enthrone the ego, but to make the soul whole. Its danger is passivity disguised as wisdom. It can become vague, evasive, overly soft, or unwilling to make hard distinctions. But in its highest form, the middle path is not weakness. It is the living center, the axis where opposites are brought into harmony without being flattened into sameness. The central question of the middle path is, how do I become whole without being captured by either extreme? D. The left-hand path. The left-hand path is the path of sovereign self-becoming. It often rejects inherited religious authority, imposed morality, social conformity, and compulsory submission. It values individual will, personal power, taboo confrontation, self-knowledge, self-deification, and liberation from external control. Historically, left-hand methods have sometimes involved antinomian practices, deliberately crossing boundaries or taboos in order to break conditioning and awaken power. In modern Western occultism, the left-hand path is often associated with Luciferianism, Satanism, certain forms of Tantra, chaos magic, and systems centered on radical autonomy. At its best, the left-hand path gives power back to the individual. It helps those wounded by oppressive religion or social conditioning reclaim will, identity, desire, courage, and self-possession. Its danger is ego inflation. It can mistake rebellion for wisdom, indulgence for freedom, domination for strength, or isolation for divinity. It may romanticize darkness without integrating it.
The central question of the left-hand path is, how do I become fully myself, free from imposed chains? E. The Purgatorian path there within. All of the above. Purgatorianism, or Shalimism, is best understood as a middle path mysticism with both right-hand and left-hand elements, yet reducible to neither. It is not purely right-hand path because it does not teach simple obedience, self-erasure, or dissolution into a collective godhead. It honors the Most High, the holy guardian angel, sacred order, purification, devotion, prayer, truth, and divine hierarchy, but the soul is not meant to vanish. It is meant to become clean, coherent, sovereign, and true. It is not purely left-hand path because it does not enthrone ego, rebellion, appetite, domination, or self-deification as the final goal. It honors soul sovereignty, shadow confrontation, refusal of coercive systems, and liberation from false binaries, but rejects the worship of power for its own sake. Purgatorianism is closest to the middle path, but not the renunciatory middle of self-extinction. It is closer to a Taoist-style middle, though darker, more purgative, more desert, more apocalyptic, and more focused on soul sovereignty. It does not seek escape from selfhood, but the purification and immortalization of true selfhood. It teaches that the soul is not saved by becoming a slave. It is not liberated by becoming a tyrant. It is not made holy by denying shadow. It is not made powerful by worshiping darkness. It becomes free by becoming true. The right hand seeks union through sacred alignment. The left hand seeks liberation through sovereign selfhood. The middle path seeks awakening through integration. The Purgatorian path seeks wholeness through truth. Purgatorianism takes, from the right, God, devotion, purification, hierarchy, prayer, sacred order. From the left, sovereignty, refusal, shadow work, self-possession, liberation.
From the middle, balance, integration, discernment, polarity held without collapse, but it refuses the corruptions of each. Right without slavery, left without narcissism, middle without lukewarmness. That may be the cleanest way to say it. Purgatorianism is not merely the middle path. Rather, it is the silver path. The integration of right, left, and middle under truth, toward the immortalization of the whole soul. Middle is the gate name, but silver is the true name. Its question is not merely, are you good or evil, but rather, are you true? Are you one? If you are true, then you are one, divided and whole. Truth, in divine love, frees us from polarity.